Good afternoon. This is the Saginaw African American pastors here at Alpha's Media Studios. This is Bishop Hurley J. Coleman. I'm with the Saginaw African American pastors, the Voices of Faith Transforming the Communities program that we come with you live every Sunday afternoon. And different ones of us are leading the discussion today, talking to you about the mission of Saginaw African American pastors. We're better known as SAP in the greater Saginaw County region. We're a Christian faith group. We're dedicated to addressing racial, social, and economic justice at all levels of the community. We do it with faith, with strength, and with boldness in order to ensure that racial equity is the experience of all citizens in Saginaw County. We African American pastors, primarily our audiences and our membership is African American, but we serve the entire community. We engage, we advocate, we collaborate. We engage in intentional conversations with leaders and decision makers at the highest level of every critical sector of the community to address and correct racial injustice and other injustices as they appear to us. We advocate for systemic changes that eliminate the biases and prejudices toward the Black community in every sector of the community, especially in the areas of policing, employment, banking, and housing. We collaborate with community and faith-based organizations, agencies, and entities that seek to eliminate racial injustices in Saginaw County by taking concrete steps toward racial equity. Bishop Hurley Coleman. I serve as a pastor at World Outreach Campus Church of God in Christ here in Saginaw, Michigan, and I'm serving now as a pastor of the Saginaw African American Pastors Group. And each week, the hosts will bring a conversation with leaders in the community. And for my purposes, I'm happy to be sitting with one of Saginaw's great pastors, a young man who has been sent to this community by God, Pastor Bob Davis, who's the pastor at Christ Fellowship Baptist Church on Washington Avenue. How you doing, Pastor Davis?
Bishop, man, I'm glad to be here with you today, man. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you here because it's an opportunity for the community of Saginaw to get to know who God sent to us, because we believe that God doesn't make a mistake. He does not make a mistake, especially when he assigns you to a place and to a ministry. So you're assigned by God and by the selection and approval of the people at Christ Fellowship. How long you been there?
Bishop, listen, man, this is my sweet 16 year.
Oh, my goodness.
October, second Sunday, I will celebrate 16 years here in the beautiful city of Saginaw.
And you came to Saginaw to that church.
I absolutely did. I came to that church. I tell you what, here's the story. My first time in Saginaw was in 2006 at the Fresh Wind Conference, your conference. Listen, I had never been to Saginaw. I had never heard of Saginaw.
Come on.
No, seriously, man. My pastor was preaching for you.
Yep.
And we came in by night and we left by night. And that was the first time, and I thought the last time.
Your pastor at that time, Bishop Edgar Van, is still today one of my closest friends. He is a great leader. He's a godly man. He's got a great visionary. The pastor of Second Ebenezer Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan. And you were there for a while, weren't you?
I've been there now 20 years. So I'm a son as of this year, 20 years. And listen, let me tell you something. That encounter that we had was the first time I met you, but I didn't get to know you until my pastor again reiterated when we was in Lansing, when Governor Jennifer Granholm had her faith-based conference, and we were there. And my pastor told me, "Did you get with Hurley Coleman like I told you to?" And I did not. And he said, "I told you to get with him." And from that day to this one,
by that time, you were already in Saginaw.
I was in Saginaw for about a year then. And from that time to this time, I've been joined at your hip.
Well, Bishop Van and I were engaged in a lot of community things and a lot of activities that are leadership outside of the walls of the church. But you have a unique and storied history in church work. What's your background?
My background is, my father was a pastor. My father pastored on the east side of Detroit for 28 years.
What's the name of that church?
The Wesley Chapel Missionary Baptist Church,
Wesley Chapel.
1807 Concord. right there on the corner of Kirchville and Concord. And
Deep East Side.
yeah, oh man, on the deep east side, man. Listen, you better know what you're doing when you go down through
That's
there.
right, man.
And so all my life I've been in church, man. That's all I know. My mother was pregnant with me when my father got the call to pastor that church. And that's all I've ever done.
Been in church. So I remember seeing you working with the choir and doing all kinds of different work when you were in the church. What was the thing that was your focus as you came up in the church and learned? What drew you to church work?
Man, listen, I've done everything in the church except been on the mother's board and a nurse, but everything else I've done. Janitor, choir. My background is music and the choir. I started in leadership with the music ministry. I played and I was over the choir at 16 years old. Imagine being the leader over people who mostly raised you. And that was my background, music.
So you were the musician.
I was the musician
and the choir director,
janitor,
PK.
PK at its best.
Now, I can relate to being a PK. My father started our church when I was 4 years old. It started in our home. Matter of fact, it moved from the living room to the garage when it grew.
That's a major move, though. That's a major move. What you talking about?
Move. So I know what it means to grow up in church in ministry and wind up being naturally engaged in it. But something else happened because you had somewhere along the way you had a personal decision that you made to make you feel like you needed to be invested in ministry beyond just that.
Yeah, my call to ministry this year in December will be 29 years. So 29 years ago, I accepted the call to preach. Now, here's the thing. I had been preaching since I was 2. My mother would tell the story that one day we was on vacation in California and it just hit me in the middle of the street and I just went for it. And so preaching has always been a part of my DNA. Just been drawn to that call. And even when we were younger, whenever the neighbors' dogs or animals would die, I preached the funeral, man.
You did the funeral.
Oh yeah, I put my white robe on, man. Yeah, and we go in the backyard and man, now listen, I don't dig graves, I don't do that. I'm the preacher. And so when I come, y'all got to have all that in order because I'm going to preach the sermon and then I'm going to let y'all go because I got my white robe on outside and I can't get my white robe dirty.
No, can't get that dirty, right? But while you were growing, so you served your father.
Yes, sir.
And you served at that church. And then you grew up and became an adult. You connected with Bishop Van.
Well, I connected with Bishop Van after my father passed. So my father passed in September of 2004. And I joined Bishop Van in February of 2005, that following year. But I had been serving and kind of working with him on whenever he did pastors consortiums or anything, he would call me in because he knew I was connected to a lot of ministers. And so
he also knew that you know how to operate and recognize and appreciate protocol.
Absolutely, because he is that. And so before I joined, I had already had a relationship with him. And I think joining just kind of sealed our covenant relationship.
Some people get called to pastoral ministry without having much exposure to pastoral ministry. And then there are others who would get called to pastoral ministry having served a pastor as a pastor's helper. Would you consider that would be how you made the transition from being a pastor's helper to a pastor?
Oh, absolutely. So I watched my father pastor. And then it was different when I joined with Bishop because Bishop he just wasn't a churchman. He was a community leader. He was a civic.
Right there. The difference between being a churchman and a community pastor is what?
It's outside the 4 walls of the church. It's not just your block, your community. Bishop reaches local, state. I mean, I would watch anybody who had aspirations of doing anything politically. I had to come and sit with him, get his counsel. I didn't care who it was, from city council to governors. And that was just something that I was drawn to. I wanted to know more about that because I knew church. I mean, but I wanted to know what was church like outside of church.
Did you think that there was a value to having that knowledge?
I thought it was a tremendous, priceless value because in that time, it wasn't a lot of pastors that was on that level. Bishop Van has always been ahead of the game, always
Oh yeah.
been against the curve, doing things differently. Even when he was the president of the Detroit Baptist Pastors of Council,
Yeah.
that was tremendous.
Yeah.
The things he was able to do there.
I remember when I was working for Wayne County, I would have events that we would have, and we would have to have Bishop Edgar Van there. And then when we would bring things to the community that need to be done, one of the places that we had to go was we had to go through the Baptist Pastor
You have
Council
to,
when
man.
he
There's
was
no,
there, because
you
he
had to.
established that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that was a very unique thing to just watch that from a distance.
Do you believe that as an African American pastor in the community, that it's critical for you not to be just a pastor in the pulpit, but a pastor in the community?
Well, we have been given the charge to be watchmen. We are watchmen of the city. So we cannot afford to be comfortable within the four walls of the church. We have to lead.
What do you have to know to be able to do that?
You got to know what you don't know. That's the first thing.
Now go through that a little bit slower.
You have to know that, hey, there's some things I just don't know about. However, ignorance is not the problem, because you can learn. That's a teachable moment. And I think when you put yourself around the right people to learn and to glean from, you can learn what it is necessary that you can do. Everybody can't do everything. And that's the thing. Everybody has to know what you're good at. Know your lane.
Now, there's another spot I just wouldn't put a pin in, because a lot of people would lump all pastors, especially all black pastors, in the same bowl, as if they all do the same thing. But nobody is exactly the same.
No, you can't.
And all of us have different callings. All of us have different manifestations of our calling and ministry. In your case, you came to Saginaw with some learned experiences into a community that was having the kind of issues that you knew how to deal with. What did that say to you when you came to Saginaw and found out that there were things that you knew that you needed to be able to do while you were here?
I believe the thing that helped me was I knew what I knew, but I did not know Saginaw. So I had to come in with that student mindset. Okay, I need to learn the lay of the land, because you can know something, but I'm from Detroit, much bigger city, different methods, different mindset, different mode. I knew some textbook things, but I also knew I needed to learn. That's one of the reasons why I was connected with you, because I know you knew, and I had to get to the right people who could help me along the way. And so I remember sometimes I would tell you, man, just take me in a room with you. A lot of times the room was not for me to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, a lot of times people miss the moment. Just because you're in the room don't mean you need to speak. A lot of rooms I went in with my pastor was to listen,
mm-hmm.
to learn. Nobody asking me nothing. I don't know anything. But I was able to come in the rooms with you and just watch and learn and listen until it was time to talk.
So what did you see about the spirit of Saginaw when we would go into those rooms? Nobody really knew you. I would be there. You would be introduced with being there with me. The credential, and I don't mean this in a braggadocious way, but just the fact, the credential of you being there with me gave you some standing and allowed people to open to receive you. But what did you have to do in order to engage when you were in that room and nobody knew you?
Well, Bishop, let me just stop you. That's not a bragging thing. That was the facts. What you just said is the facts. I needed your credentials to get in the room because you had access. I was just a new pastor. What do I know? I didn't know anybody. I think what helped is me understanding that there are gatekeepers here. You're one of them. I tell people all the time to this day, Hurley J. Coleman is the Bishop of Saginaw. No, seriously. Hear me out, Bishop. Here's why. Nothing moves without your voice on it. You don't have to take it. I'm telling you, I know. I've seen it too many times. When something gets ready to happen in Saginaw, you get the call.
Yeah. And that's something that God did. But he didn't give me that. He didn't put me in that spot so that I could just walk in that light by myself.
No.
But
I believe
there's a reason that God not only put me there, but then connects me with other people, because there's a spirit
Sure.
of Saginaw that we need to connect to. We're coming close to the first break in our conversation, but I want to just take advantage of this moment to talk about when you came to town. And I remember coming over to Christ Fellowship the day that you were consecrated, and you were brought in. Bishop Van consecrated you as a pastor. I was there with you in that service, and the church received you, and you began developing relationship with your members in that church. You became the pastor of that church and a part of that congregation, which put you into the fabric of the community. What caused you to feel like you were where you were supposed to be?
I think time. I knew I had prayed. I mean, my wife came up here one day. Now, let me just backtrack. I did not want to pastor this church. Okay. I never wanted to pastor this church. The way I came to know this church was one of the members, a very faithful member, the late Joyce Walls, came to Second Ebenezer in February of 2009 in a storm. Her nephew had died, and I was on to preach the funeral. And afterwards, she came up to me and asked, would I come to the church because they needed a pastor? No, I don't. But I couldn't tell her no. Some way I gave her one of my business cards.
See, what you're saying is you're not saying you didn't want to pastor the church. You're saying it wasn't your goal. You weren't after this church to be the pastor.
Not at all. I had no idea who Saginaw was. I told you I've only been there 2006. This is 2009, 3 years later. I wasn't thinking about pastor because I just got disappointed by a church that turned me down. So I'm done. I don't want to do this no more. And she hunted me down until she hunted me down. And even when they brought me in to interview, I just wanted to preach. And the more I made them upset, so what I thought, the more God was in working and working. And I tell my wife, I think this is getting serious. I better stop playing and change my tune. And I just believe when I said yes, I believe God just started working. And I remember one prayer I prayed: God, I'll go, but I'm not going without you. So if you don't go with me, I can't do it.
It sounds like what Moses said. Moses said the same thing. He said, God, I'll go, but if you don't go with me, I can't go.
I can't do this.
So this is not a career assignment, a career objective that you have, but you really feel like you're on assignment from God.
It's an assignment, absolutely an assignment. And I'm honored.
So he didn't just assign you to the church. He assigned you to the community.
I believe that as well. And I live like that. I live that I've been called to not only the city, but to the church as well.
One of the things about the Saginaw African American pastors is that we are a diverse group of individuals with extremely diverse backgrounds. We're all African American, but we have extremely diverse backgrounds, extremely diverse gifts and gifting. And our congregations have different flavors.
Sure.
And our ministries have different focus of different high points and different drawing points. What would you say is in just a couple of minutes? What would you say is what you believe the high point, the drawing point of Bob Davis at Christ Fellowship?
Bishop, that's a loaded question, man. I would just have to say that I like to believe I'm the people's pastor. I have a unique relationship with each one of my members. And I believe the highlight for me is that I'm just honored and still sometimes don't believe I'm a pastor. That's how humble I am about it, because you ain't have to pick me.
So you don't wear the title.
No,
but you do wear the robe.
I have to wear the robe. And I didn't choose to wear the robe. The robe chose me. And I'm just grateful for that, man, because if you got one person following you, that's a blessing. In disguise.
There's a story in scripture that sometimes we talk about it from different perspectives, but it just made me think about Joseph in the Bible. And his father gave him a coat.
Gave him a coat, man.
He gave him a coat, and Joseph wore that coat. Joseph wore the coat, purely because his father gave it
That's
to him.
the only reason
It
why.
was the only reason, and it was special to him because his father gave it to him.
He didn't ask for it.
And nobody, even Joseph, knew the significance of that coat.
Yes, sir.
The fact that the many colors would later on represent the many nations that would come
Yes,
from
sir.
him. But you were given a coat, and there are challenges that come along with that
Oh,
coat.
what you talking about?
We're going to talk about that a little bit further as we go into this conversation.
Mhm.
But here's Bob Davis from Detroit, Michigan, bringing his family, your wonderful wife, your children, your family. You all came. You've been here now 16 years.
In October,
At,
yes, sir.
at Christ Fellowship, the church loves you. You have a great place in ministry. You were here during the time of Milton Hall and became a part of the activities of Milton Hall, wound up being on the police uh, community relations board. We'll talk a little bit about your community engagement and how you're living that out. But you are wearing this coat,
Yes, sir.
and it has many colors,
Yes, sir.
and it's attractive.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good.
It's attractive, and
Mhm.
it attracts things.
Yeah.
And so the challenges of being a pastor in Saginaw are great and many.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm happy, my friends, brothers, and sisters, you're watching us and you're listening to us on 107, Hot 107, Kiss 107, excuse me, through Alpha Media. We're thankful for this platform, the Saginaw African American Pastors. So we're voices of faith transforming this community through our actions, through our advocacy, and through our collaborations. We're going to come back to you in a few moments and just talk a little bit more with one of the great pastors in Saginaw, Michigan, Pastor Bob Davis at Christ Fellowship Baptist Church. Come stay with us now. We're back again. This is Bishop Hurley Coleman. I'm president of Saginaw African American Pastors Group, and we're here with Pastor Bob Davis from Christ Fellowship Baptist Church here in Saginaw. And just before the break, we were talking about his journey coming to Saginaw, his engagement with the community, and we hit upon the story, the biblical story of Joseph and the coat of many colors. And most of you who are Bible students know the story about that and all the things that happened to Joseph, but how ultimately what Joseph had to do in every circumstance of his life was to wear the coat, even if you couldn't see it, even when he was in prison, even when he was in the pit, and by the time he got to be in the palace, he was living out the promise of the coat of many colors because he was there. And here you are, Bob. Here you are in Saginaw, and so many things have happened. Just before the break, we talked about the fact that you happened to be here in town and engaged in the community at the time when the Milton Hall episode happened. It was a very, very traumatic and tragic incident that could have wound up like Ferguson and other places, but the pastors were actively engaged in the community. And you played a role in that, along with so many other pastors who are here now. And it wasn't just pastors; it was the legal community, it was the political community, it was the nonprofit community. The whole community pulled together. And Saginaw did not experience some of the other things that happened, but you had that coat on, and you wound up being a leader. What do you think about that, Bob?
I mean, I often reflect on that, Bishop. Our city was in was in a crossroad. Now, if you remember back then, we were the first to experience that. And after us was Ferguson, and after us was all the other cities. And we set the precedence and the bar. We had 35 pastors,
35,
and not just Black. We non-denominational, cross-culture. We had an arm, a very strong arm, because we were just trying to stand for justice and together. And during that time, we really, as the leaders of the city, kept the city from being anything like other cities were.
And it happened because there was a lot of engagement.
It was so much engagement. I mean, that was a lot. I mean, we were in meetings every day,
Yeah.
sometimes all day,
Yeah.
trying to meet with the powers that be, trying to convey the messages back to the people so that they could be informed. And the Lord allowed us together to do that because you were the leader of the whole group, and I was just over the segment of the pastors. And it was because I understood lanes.
Yeah.
It was only befitting that you would lead the charge.
And it wasn't something that I stepped up and tried to organize.
No, people don't
No,
know
it
behind the
just-
scenes how that happened.
Yeah.
It was nothing like that. It was, you was pushed. You was almost pulled, dragged to
Yeah.
that position. And it kind of just came together. And the city came together.
Because we all saw the need. And that's something that great that happens when leadership sees a need beyond what they need.
Absolutely.
And that's a significant thing when, and for people who don't understand the realities of pastoral life, there are many times when it looks like we're in the limelight and people think that we just want to be in the limelight. But it's like a lesson I learned when I was in college. I was in theater. I was in theater class, and I had a class. I was had a major role in the play at Eastern Michigan, and I was always out there trying to. They block out where you're supposed to be on the stage, and you're supposed to stand on your mark. And I was always trying to make sure that I could be where the light was. And the director said, "Hurley, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to make sure I'm where the light is." He said, "Don't you understand that in your role, when the time comes, the light will find you?"
Look at that.
And there we are. And as pastors, many times we're not looking for the light, but the light finds us. And then other people will see that. And that's the Joseph Coates syndrome, where people think you're just trying to be there. But in that moment, we had the law enforcement community, we had the political community, and we had the national media there. John Conyers came, Al Sharpton came, Jesse Jackson came, the governor came. When we were in that, and you were in that place, and you wound up being on the police commission, there were things that happened after the fact that people didn't see. But you learned something about Saginaw in that episode that crystallized why you, Bob Davis, were here. What do you think that was?
I think what it was, I think I was being baptized into learning what it means to be a leader outside the church. Because pastoring is one thing, but outside the church, because now you're leading people who don't go to church. So their frame of reference is not the same as yours. So you're trying to get everybody to just follow the one goal. And I think that was a critical time. And I had to really rely on my pastor. I had to rely on leaders who had been through something like this, so that I could do the best job that I could do it my way. But I had to have a blueprint, which I did not have.
Yeah.
I just knew something had to be done. And I was thankful that God allowed me to be in that position.
How does church and family and membership and public, how does that mixture happen with you because you had to learn the membership of the church,
Yeah.
your family had to learn Saginaw, they had to adjust to a new place, you had children that were in school.
Yeah.
How did that all work for you?
It was difficult, man. It was difficult because I always relate my journey to Abraham. Leave your familiar, the place that you know everybody, and go to a place you know nobody.
Wow.
Take your family with you who knows nobody. My family, my kids struggled. I mean, I snatched them out of elementary school, and they had their friends, and to bring them here to a place that we didn't know anybody. So I'm juggling that. I'm juggling my own adjustments. And I spent a lot of time going back home, just getting on the road. Until now, I'm like, I'll visit home, but I'm going home.
This is home now.
This is home now. This is home. And so when we go home back to Detroit, it's like
a visit.
It's a visit, and it's a mission. All right, what we got to do? All right, let's get back home. So the transition, though, that happened, and I just believe that God ordained it all, because I wouldn't have saw myself just stepping out to do that just to say I did something.
In the time that you've been here in Saginaw, you've seen some changes happen. You've seen
Mhm.
some political changes. You've been engaged in the political process. You've seen some organizational changes. When the whole thing happened with Milton Hall, within months now, we had all new offices. It was a new mayor. It was a new police chief. It was a new prosecutor. There were new people being elected officials, and we were engaged in all of those different things. Leadership change on the city council. Leadership change on the school board. Leadership change in the county commission, had a different governor coming. What have you seen change about the community as it relates to the pastors and the community activities? And I'm speaking from the perspective of Saginaw African American pastors and our engagement with the community. What have you seen change?
Well, I see that there's stability. And a lot of times people who have no structure in their life look to the church and look to pastors for that structure. Now, no one raises their hand and say, I don't have structure. I want structure. But their attitude says, I don't have it. And the last place I expect to not have it is from church and a pastor. And I think what the pastors consortium does is it brings a sense of unity. It brings a sense of stability. And whenever you have a changing of the guards, you still got to have the watchmen of the city who can sit and stand and say what needs to be. I remember there were some times where we would have the town hall meetings for candidates who wanted to be elected officials. And I remember one particular person was running for city council, and they asked me, do I have to be at this town hall? And I just remember saying very candidly, without thinking, if you want to serve on this city council, you do.
Yeah.
That person's on city council today.
Yeah.
Because there was a precedence that was established. Yeah. And we as pastors have to be able to say, yay and nay. Maybe it's not your time right now.
Yeah.
But then people got to be willing to hear
it.
The voice of wisdom.
And the consistency with the pastors is that for years, it's always happened. It's not always been in an organized format. It's not always, but there's always been faith leaders. I grew up in Saginaw, and I remember growing up in my lifetime watching the leaders of faith come together and provide that for the community. And it still happens. It's still necessary for it to happen. There are young pastors coming along that need to understand that it's important to be connected with the faith community. We have several different pastoral groups and clergy groups and faith groups, but it's necessary to be connected with the body, like the book of Hebrews says, failing not the assembling together of themselves as a manner of some men. There are times when pastors need to come together just so that we can demonstrate that aggregate leadership that's necessary for the community. There's another point in this whole thing, though, and that is that as we talk about pastors and pastoral leadership and faith leadership, there is a void. There's a void in the community with what people see as pastors being together and how they engage with pastors. What would you say to somebody who's listening to this conversation about why you think it's important for pastors, for their pastor, to be aggregated or be connected with other pastors in the community?
Well, no man is on the island of himself. You need connection, you need fellowship, and you need pastors need pastors. Let's start right there. And most time people look at us and just say, oh, that job is so easy. I mean, they only work one day a week. That's so far from the truth.
So far.
I mean, we're sitting here having this kind of conversation, but either one of us can get a phone call,
right?
That we have to go and be present.
My phone has been going off while I've been here. I just can't afford to take it off right now because
what I'm saying is there's always a need for us. And when you reverse that, the pastors as leaders have to be on the front end because you can't lead from behind.
Right.
And so as we are collectively doing this work together, because it's one work, kingdom, we're doing it at our different addresses, but it's still kingdom. And we got to figure out a way how we can always make sure that we do kingdom beyond church.
And in the present political and social environment, what do you think is critical for the people to hear from faith leaders as we deal with decisions that are made in Washington and Lansing, downtown, that affect their daily lives?
I think we got to still stick with hope. Most people are lacking hope. And what I've been sharing with our church is listen, you got to, in the next 4 years, get comfortable being uncomfortable because that's what it is. And we have to have a hope in a God that is bigger and wiser and stronger than what we're facing.
And we've learned something over the last 6 years. We've learned that our communities are not monolithic, and
No.
that we don't have one mind, one mindset. And I'm encouraging people, and I want you to just react to this quick, Bob. I'm encouraging people, African American leaders, to be unapologetic about being black, unapologetic about our culture, unapologetic about our history. We don't need to back away from saying I'm an African American, I'm a black man, I got black family, I serve black people. My priorities are trying to make sure that the people that I serve are getting service and getting recognized. What do you think about that?
That's what James Brown said. James Brown simply said, I'm black and I'm proud. Here's why. Because what we carry is not just our color, it's what we carry with that. We're carrying our ancestors, we're carrying legacy, we're carrying history, we're carrying destiny, we're carrying so much that the things that we carry becomes too much. And so for us not to be proud of that, to not have a sense of sticking our chest out about that, is to me diabolical. Because the essence of being a black man, automatically you got to have a strong back. Your shoulders have to be broad. You have to be able to endure things that most people, other cultures or other men from other ethnicities will not have to.
I had a person say to me, ask me, say, well, Hurley, why is it that you're always talking about black this, black this? Why do you always have to talk about it? I said, do you realize that when I'm talking about it, I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just talking about me. But my blackness doesn't diminish anybody else's whatever elseness that they are.
No.
It is who I am.
Absolutely.
It is what I serve. It's who I'm called to in the general, in the specific, but in general, I'm called to the whole community. I really am called to the world. That's kingdom.
That's kingdom.
Because God is not limited to the construct of race as we see it, but we have to abide in it and we have to operate in it. And I need to be able to encourage other young black men or other black men or other black women that is you don't run from who you are. Don't run from your culture. Don't run from the God culture that you were raised in, because we have a unique, resilient culture in the black church.
Absolutely.
That is undeniable.
Absolutely. And this next generation, my goal as a man, as a black man, as a pastor, as a father, is to throw a rock in the next generation so that they have something to stand for. Now, that's not easy, because this generation, quite frankly, don't go to church.
Not like our previous generation.
That's all I knew was church. I mean, I learned other things, but church was the core. And so this generation is like, they have so many questions. And let's be honest, they got some legitimate questions.
Bob, this is you asked me earlier off the microphone, how many of these interviews that I've done. I've done a number of them, and no one has been like the other. Every pastor that I have a conversation with, every interview is different, because God has all called us all from different places, through different things, to different places. But the unity is that we're all here. We're all black. We're all serving the community. And nobody is serving only their congregation, but their primary audience is their congregation. Jesus had 12 disciples, but he fed the multitude.
Sure.
And I think that that's an important thing. The Saginaw African American pastors, our goal is to be voices of faith, transforming the community. And you can't transform the community without transforming lives.
That's
We
key.
transform the community by conversation, life by life. And if you had an opportunity, and you have this opportunity right now to talk to all these people who are watching you, all these people who are listening to you on this incredible airways. I want to thank Matt, who is an incredible
That's done
producer
a great job.
and an operator. Kiss 107, we thank you and Alpha Media for making this platform available. And so, Bob, you have this audience that has been created for us to have this conversation. What do you want them to know about the motivation of Saginaw African American pastors and why Bob Davis is a part of it?
Well, I think again, it goes back to connection. It goes back to camaraderie. I think, we can afford, and we learned this phrase during Milton Hall, to be ambulance chasers. We need to be in front, and it's better to be proactive. In times of peace, you need to be thinking about a strategy of war, because the last thing you want to do when there's a fire in the house, trying to figure out what we're going to do,
Right.
what move we're going to make. And I think the connection, the collaboration helps us to stay focused, because we can't do a lot of things. But if we're doing the focus, that's all that matters. We can't solve every single problem in the world, but if we can help this community with the basic things, that's all we need to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting here talking with one of Saginaw's gifts that God has sent to us, the pastor at Christ Fellowship Baptist. What's the address of your church?
818 North Washington Avenue.
818 North Washington Avenue. It's a beautiful church, a beautiful congregation. Pastor Bob Davis, he and his family they're part of the fabric of the community of Saginaw. They've been here for 16 years, and he has been steadfast in his service to the community. We're enjoying you having an opportunity to hear the other side of the person that you see out front. And Bob, you got a wonderful family. Your children they're going matriculating through. So in the 16 years they've gone through elementary
Absolutely.
school.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Oh yeah.
I saw your wife just the other day. She's involved and engaged in her livelihood in the community. And there's so many people that are part of Christ Fellowship that are engaged. What do you want them to know about why you, with all the challenges you face, why you appreciate God sending you to Saginaw?
Yeah. I believe not only my own assignment here, but I believe God brought me here to show me, to work on me, to help develop me. And I think he's used 818 North Washington Avenue as the laboratory to perform surgery, to help me to develop into the pastor, into the man, into the father that he needs me to be, and he created me to be. And I think this journey has been a wonderful journey. Now, let me be clear. It ain't all been good. It ain't all been bad. It's been a wonderful journey, because on the journey, you learn so much. And I thank God for it. I mean, I'm grateful.
Well, you just described the life of the disciples as they were walking with Jesus on that way. They had no idea. They just said, "We're gonna follow you."
Hey, listen, we're going where you go.
We're going. And so we've been talking. This has been the Voices of Faith Transforming Community program for the Saginaw African American pastors. I'm Bishop Hurley J. Coleman, and I'm thankful that God has blessed me to be a part of this group and serve you. And we've enjoyed this wonderful conversation with Pastor Bob Davis. I hope that you who are watching, you who are listening, will understand that pastors do everything that they can, but they can only do as much as they can with they can do much more than they're doing with your help. So you got to be engaged. When the pastors call together, let's come together. And each Sunday, this program is going to be on the air. Each pastor is going to be having an opportunity to lead. We thank God for all of these opportunities. And so as we continue to engage and advocate and collaborate as the Saginaw African American pastors, God bless you until next week.
Thank you, Bishop.